What if Maester Aemon recognized Jon's eyes at Castle Black and crowned him with Bloodraven's cloak? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The frozen stones of Castle Black stretch toward a grey sky as Jon Snow rides through the gates for the first time. His breath mists in the bitter air, and his hands ache from gripping the reins too tightly. Behind him, the small company of recruits follows in silence, their faces grim with cold and disappointment. This is not the glorious calling they imagined when they took the Black. Jon slides down from his horse and looks around at the crumbling walls and weathered buildings. The courtyard is smaller than he expected, filled with dirty snow and the sharp smell of unwashed men. Sir Alliser, Thorm emerges from the armory, his thin face twisted into a sneer as he surveys the new arrivals. "More fodder for the war," Thorn declares, his voice cutting through the wind. "Look at them, thieves, rapers, and bastards. The realm's unwanted refuse." Jon's jaw tightens at the word bastard, but he says nothing. He has heard worse at Winterfell, though never spoken with such open contempt. Beside him, a fat boy with soft hands trembles as Thorn's gaze falls upon him. "What's your name, boy?" Thorn asks the trembling recruit. "Samwell Tarly, sir, of Horn Hill." Thorn laughs, a harsh sound that echoes off the stones. "A lordling's son, how generous of your father to send us such a gift." He turns to Jon. "And you, bastard, Jon Snow, sir." Snow Thorn tastes the name like something sour. "Ned Stark's bastard. Your lord father thinks highly enough of you to send you north instead of keeping you underfoot." His eyes narrow. "We'll see how long that pride lasts on the wall." Jon meets Thorn's stare without flinching. He has learned to endure such words with dignity, a lesson taught by years of living as the bastard of Winterfell. But something in Thorn's manner promises worse to come. The recruits are led to their quarters in a long, low building that smells of sweat and damp wool. Jon claims a narrow bunk near the window, hoping for some fresh air to cut through the stench. Samwell Tarly takes the bunk beside him, moving awkwardly under the weight of his travel pack. "Have you ever seen the wall?" Sam asks quietly, his voice barely audible above the wind outside. Jon shakes his head. "My uncle Benjen serves as first ranger, but I've never traveled this far north." He looks toward the window, where the massive ice barrier rises beyond the castle's walls. "It's larger than I imagined. 700 feet tall," Sam whispers. "I read about it in my father's library, built by Brandon the Builder with the help of giants and magic." He pauses. "Do you think the stories are true about what lies beyond?" Before Jon can answer, the door bursts open and several older recruits enter, their black cloaks marked with mud and ice. They look over the new arrivals with predatory interest. "Fresh meat," one of them says. "A scarred man named Rast. Look at this fat one. He'll make good sport for Sir Alliser." Sam shrinks back against his bunk as the older recruits surround him. "Please," he says, his voice breaking. "I don't want any trouble." "Trouble?" Rast grins and grabs Sam's cloak, yanking him to his feet. "We're just being friendly, showing you how things work at Castle Black." Jon stands slowly, his hand moving to the pommel of his sword. "Let him be." Rast turns to face Jon, his smile widening. "The bastard has teeth. Good. That'll make this more interesting." "I said let him be." Jon's voice carries the authority he learned from watching Ned Stark command the Great Hall at Winterfell. "He's done nothing to you." "Done nothing?" Rast laughs. "Look at him, soft as a woman and twice as useless. He'll get us all killed if the wildlings come calling." Jon draws his sword in one smooth motion, the steel ringing as it clears the scabbard. The Sound fills the cramped quarters like a bell. Step away from him. Rast's hand goes to his own weapon, but before he can draw, a voice cuts through the tension. Enough. An older man stands in the doorway, his black cloak marking him as a ranger. His grey beard is neatly trimmed, and his eyes hold the steady authority of command. Behind him walks a frail figure in maester's robes, his face ancient and his milky eyes nearly blind. "I am Jeor Mormont, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch," the bearded man says. "And this is Maester Aemon, who tends to our ravens and our wounded." He looks at the drawn swords. "Lower your weapons. We do not shed brother's blood at Castle Black." Jon sheathes his sword immediately. Rast follows more slowly, his eyes still fixed on Jon with obvious resentment. "You recruits will train together," Mormont continues. "Fight together, live or die together. Save your anger for the enemies beyond the wall." He turns to go, then pauses. "Maester Aemon will assign duties tomorrow. Rest tonight. You'll need your strength for what's to come." As Mormont leaves, Maester Aemon remains in the doorway for a moment longer. His merely blind gaze seems to settle on Jon, and something flickers across his weathered features. A frown of concentration, as if he is trying to remember something that hovers just beyond recall. "Jon Snow," the old maester says softly, testing the name. "Ned Stark's boy. You have the look of Winterfell about you, the long face of the Starks." He pauses, his head tilting slightly. "Though something else as well. Something familiar." Jon shifts uncomfortably under the old man's scrutiny. "I am a bastard, Maester. Bastards often carry mixed blood." "Indeed they do." Aemon murmurs. He turns to go, then stops again. "You will assist with the ravens tomorrow, young Snow. I sense you have gentle hands for such work." After the maester leaves, Jon sits heavily on his bunk. Sam settles beside him, still shaking from the confrontation. "Thank you," Sam whispers. "You didn't have to help me." Jon looks at the fat boy's earnest face and sees something of Bran in his soft features. "We're brothers now," he says. "Brothers protect each other." That night, Jon lies awake listening to the wind howl through the gaps in the stone walls. He thinks of Winterfell's warm hearths and Arya's laughter, of Robb's easy confidence and Ned Stark's quiet strength. The decision to take the Black seemed noble when he made it. A chance to serve something greater than himself. Now it feels like exile. Meanwhile, in his chambers high in the king's tower, Maester Aemon sits before his fire, troubled by thoughts he cannot quite grasp. The new recruit's face haunts him, stirring memories that should remain buried. There was something in the boy's bearing, the way he carried himself despite his bastard birth, something that spoke of blood nobler than he claimed. Aemon reaches for a cup of honeyed wine and stares into the flames. He has seen many recruits come to Castle Black over his 70 years at the wall. Thieves and murderers, second sons and bastards, all seeking refuge in the Black. But few have carried themselves with such natural dignity, such unconscious nobility. The boy's eyes trouble him most of all. Dark, yes, but with depths that seemed to catch the light strangely. In certain moments, when Jon turned his head just so, Aemon glimpsed something that made his ancient heart skip a beat. Purple, perhaps, hidden beneath the surface grey. The colour of old Valyria. The colour of dragons. Aemon shakes his head, dismissing such fancies. The wine must be affecting his aged mind. Jon Snow is Ned Stark's bastard, nothing more. The Lord of Winterfell's honour is legendary throughout the realm. He would never lie about such a thing. Yet the feeling persists as Aemon prepares for sleep. Something about the boy demands attention, demands remembrance. Tomorrow he will watch him more closely, perhaps assign him duties that require closer observation. The ravens will tell him much about Jon Snow's true nature. They always do. The old maester blows out his candle and settles into his narrow bed. Outside, the wall groans in the cold, and somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls. Aemon closes his milky eyes and dreams of dragons flying over fields of winter roses, their wings casting shadows that stretch across the years. In the recruits' quarters, Jon Snow sleeps fitfully, unaware that his arrival at Castle Black has stirred forces greater than he could imagine. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new tests of his character and resolve. But tonight, he is simply a bastard boy far from home, seeking his place in a brotherhood that may prove more significant than he ever dared hope. The morning sun struggles through grey clouds as Maester Aemon shuffles through the corridors of Castle Black. His gnarled fingers trace the familiar stones, counting steps to his chambers. 70 years he has walked these halls, 70 years since he chose duty over crown, vows over blood. The weight of those decades presses upon his shoulders like the ice that grows thicker each winter on the wall. In his solar, Aemon settles into his chair and stares unseeing toward the window. The new recruit troubles him still. Jon Snow, the bastard of Winterfell, carries himself like no bastard he has ever known. There was something in the boy's voice yesterday, a quality that stirred memories Aemon thought safely buried. His mind drifts backward through the years, past the long service at the wall, past the chain he forged at the citadel, all the way back to the red keep of his youth. He remembers the throne room's soaring columns and the iron seat that cut those who claimed it. He remembers his father, stern King Maker, and his brother Aegon, who took the crown Aemon refused. Most clearly, he remembers his great-nephew Rhaegar. The Silver Prince had visited him once at Castle Black, years before Robert's rebellion tore the realm apart. Rhaegar came seeking wisdom about prophecy and destiny, his purple eyes bright with dreams of dragons and ice. Even then, Aemon had seen the tragedy that would claim the boy. Too noble for the Game of Thrones, too gentle for the crown he was born to wear. "Uncle," Rhaegar had said, standing in this very room, "do you ever regret your choice, the crown you refused for love of family?" Aemon had touched the boy's silver hair, so like his own had been in youth. "I regret many things, nephew, but not that choice. A throne built on duty alone crumbles when the storms come. You will learn this. Now, Rhaegar lies dead beneath the trident, and House Targaryen is ashes and exile. Yet, something in Jon Snow's bearing reminds him of that last prince, the way he held his head high, despite knowing his father's madness doomed their line. A knock at his door interrupts these dark thoughts. "Enter," Aemon calls, and Jon Snow steps into the chamber. The boy stands respectfully near the entrance, his hands clasped behind his back. "Maester Aemon, I hoped I might speak with you." "Of course, young Snow. What troubles you?" Jon moves closer, his footsteps surprisingly quiet for a youth of his size. "It's Samwell Tarly, Maester. The other recruits torment him daily. Ser Alliser sets him against opponents twice his size and laughs when he falls." Aemon nods slowly. He has seen such cruelty before at Castle Black. The Night's Watch is not a place for gentle souls. Sam Tarly will learn, or he will die. That is the way of the wall. "But it doesn't have to be," Jon says, his voice carrying quiet conviction. "He has other gifts. I've seen him with the ravens. They come for him like they do for you. And he knows more history and heraldry than any of us." The Maester's clouded eyes sharpen with interest. John speaks of heraldry as if he understands its importance, not merely as decoration, but as the language of houses and bloodlines. You know of heraldry, bastard. John shifts slightly, perhaps realizing he has revealed more than intended. Maester Lewin taught all Lord Stark's children. I sat with them often. All of them? Aemon asks carefully. Even the bastard, Lord Stark insisted. John's voice warms when he speaks of Ned Stark. He said knowledge belonged to any who would learn, regardless of birth. That wisdom was the one inheritance that could not be stolen. Aemon feels something stir in his chest. Such words sound like they came from a father, not a lord tolerating his bastard out of duty. Tell me, what device does House Dane bear? A white sword and falling star on lavender maester. Sir Arthur Dane carried Dawn, the sword forged from starfall metal. And House Targaryen, a free-headed dragon, red on black. John pauses, then adds quietly, the last dragons died years ago. Aemon's breath catches. The boy speaks of Targaryens with the careful neutrality of one taught not to express opinions about fallen houses. But there was no hatred in his voice, none of the venom most northerners reserve for the Dragon Kings. The Targaryens ruled for 3 centuries, Aemon says. Testing. Some say they were mad, all of them. John considers this thoughtfully. Maester Lewin taught us that madness is not inherited like eye color. King Jaehaerys was called the Old King for his wisdom. Prince Rhaegar was known for his songs and gentle nature. One cannot judge a house by its worst members any more than by its best. The words hit Aemon like a physical blow. John speaks of Rhaegar with knowledge and respect, not the casual dismissal most give to dead princes. More troubling still, the boy's age fits perfectly with the timing of Robert's rebellion. If he was born in 283, the year of the Trident. You speak wisely for one so young, Aemon manages. Tell me, how do you find life at Castle Black? Is it what you expected? John's expression grows distant. I thought I understood what sacrifice meant, Maester. Growing up at Winterfell, I knew my place. Lord Stark's bastard, welcomed, but apart. I thought the Night's Watch would be different, that here, all men would be brothers regardless of birth. And instead, I find the same divisions, highborn and lowborn, favored and despised. Sir Alliser looks at San and sees weakness to be broken. He looks at me and sees a bastard to be humbled. Aemon leans forward in his chair. Yet you defend Tarly despite knowing it earns you enemies. He's my brother now, John says simply. The weak deserve protection, not scorn. Lord Stark taught me that strength exists to serve those who lack it. Again, John speaks of Ned Stark as Lord Stark, yet the warmth in his voice suggests a deeper bond. Aemon has mown many bastards in his time. They speak of their fathers with resignation, sometimes bitterness, rarely with such obvious affection. Your Lord Stark sounds like a man of honor, Aemon says carefully. The most honorable man in the 7 kingdoms, John replies without hesitation. Everything I am, I learned from him. How to fight, how to lead, how to tell right from wrong. His voice drops. Sometimes I wonder if coming here disappointed him, if he expected more from his. John stops abruptly, perhaps realizing he was about to say son instead of bastard. Aemon's ancient mind races, the boy's age, his noble bearing, his knowledge of heraldry and respect for fallen houses. The obvious love between him and Ned Stark, despite his bastard status. And something else, something that tickles at the edges of memory. The way John holds his head, the line of his jaw, the depth in his eyes that speaks of old blood. Maester Aemon? John asks, noticing the old man's silence. Are you well? Forgive me, I was lost in thought. Aemon struggles to keep his voice steady. You mentioned Samwell's way with ravens. Perhaps he would benefit from duties that use his gifts rather than expose his weaknesses. Jon's face brightens with hope. You would speak to the Lord Commander. I might do better than that. The ravens require constant care, and I am old. I could use assistants who understand their nature. Aemon pauses, making his decision. You will both report to me tomorrow at dawn. We shall see what you can learn about the birds that carry our words across the realm. Thank you, Maester. You won't regret this kindness. As Jon turns to leave, Aemon calls after him. One more question, young Snow. When you were at Winterfell, did you ever visit the crypts beneath the castle? Jon stops, his hand on the door latch. Often, Maester. Lord Stark said the dead watch over the living, that a man should know the faces of his ancestors. And whose faces did you study in that darkness? All of them, Jon replies quietly. Stark kings and their queens. Lords and ladies stretching back to Brandon the Builder. Lord Stark said I was as much a child of Winterfell as any, despite my name. He hesitates. Sometimes I felt they watched me too, as if wondering what I would become. After Jon leaves, Aemon sits in silence for a long time. The pieces of a puzzle, older than Jon himself, begin to arrange themselves in his mind. The boy's age places his birth at the height of Robert's rebellion. His noble bearing suggests blood higher than any bastard should carry. His knowledge and Ned Stark's obvious affection speak of a truth hidden beneath convenient lies. And there is something else, something that made his heart skip when Jon spoke of the crypts. The way the boy described feeling watched by stone kings, as if they recognized something in him that others missed. The same feeling Aemon experiences now, staring at the empty doorway where Jon stood. Tomorrow, he will watch the boy more closely. Ravens respond to those with dragon blood in their veins, a secret known to few maesters, and fewer still who live to remember it. If Jon Snow is who Aemon suspects he might be, the birds will know. They always know. The old maester reaches for his writing desk and pulls out a fresh sheet of parchment. There are letters to write, careful inquiries to make about events 15 years past. If Jon Snow carries the blood of dragons in his veins, it changes everything. The boy's life may depend on learning the truth before others discover it. Outside his window, the wall gleams like white gold in the afternoon sun, ancient and implacable. Soon winter will come, bringing darkness and things that should not exist. If the songs and prophecies speak truly, the realm will need all its hidden princes before the end. Aemon dips his quill and begins to write, his weathered hand surprisingly steady. The Game of Thrones may be done with House Targaryen, but House Targaryen may not be done with the game. Not if Jon Snow is who his ancient heart suspects he is. Not if the last dragon yet lives, hidden beneath a bastard's name, in the shadow of the wall. Dawn breaks grey and cold over Castle Black as Jon Snow makes his way to the rookery. The narrow stairs spiral upward through the king's tower, and his breath mists in the frozen air. Behind him, Samwell Tarly climbs slowly, still wheezing from the previous day's training. Both boys wear the black wool of their new calling, though neither has yet taken final vows. The rookery occupies the tower's highest level, its windows open to the wind that carries messages across the realm. Ravens perch along wooden beams, their dark eyes gleaming with intelligence. The room smells of bird droppings and parchment, straw, and the lingering scent of sealing wax. Maester Aemon stands beside a large writing desk, his gnarled hands sorting through scrolls. Despite his blindness, he moves with the confidence of long familiarity. When Jon and Sam enter, he turns toward them with a slight smile. "Welcome to the true heart of Castle Black," Aemon says. "These birds carry our words to every corner of Westeros. Kings and lords, maesters and merchants, all depend upon our ravens to know what transpires beyond their walls." Jon approaches one of the larger perches, where a black bird preens its feathers. The raven regards him calmly, showing none of the agitation common when strangers draw near. "How far can they fly, Maester?" "The strongest can reach King's Landing in 3 days, Winterfell in 2. Some have flown to Old Town and back, a journey that would take a man months." Aemon's clouded eyes seem to focus on Jon. They possess an intelligence beyond most beasts. Ravens remember faces, recognize voices, even understand simple words. Sam edges closer to a smaller bird, extending his hand carefully. The raven hops onto his finger without fear, and Sam's round face lights with wonder. It's so calm. At Horn Hill, the ravens always scattered when I approached. "Animals sense intent," Jon observes, watching Sam gentle the bird. "They know the difference between kindness and cruelty." Wisdom from one so young. "Your Lord Stark taught you well about the nature of living things." As the morning progresses, Aemon assigns them tasks. Jon learns to prepare the thin paper used for distant messages, while Sam practices mixing the inks that must remain clear despite cold and rain. The work requires patience and steady hands, qualities both boys possess in different measures. "Tell me, Jon Snow," Aemon says as they work. "What do you know of the Night's Watch's history? How long have we stood guard upon the wall?" 8,000 years, Maester, though the records from the earliest times are fragmentary. Maester Luwin said the Watch once numbered in the tens of thousands, with fortresses manning every mile of the wall. And now, less than 1,000 men holding 3 castles. The realm forgets the purpose we serve. Aemon's expression grows thoughtful. The realm believes the threats we guard against are legends, wildlings they understand. But the others, he shakes his head. Men prefer to forget what they cannot easily defeat. Sam looks up from his work. "Maester, do you truly believe the others exist? The old stories speak of them. But surely they're just tales to frighten children." "I have lived long enough to know that tales often hold more truth than history books," Aemon replies. "The wall was built for a purpose, Sam. Something that required magic and giants and the combined strength of the first men and the children of the forest. Men do not undertake such labors for mere wildlings." Jon sets down his quill, intrigued despite himself. The maesters at Winterfell spoke of the Age of Heroes as metaphor, not history. Did they? Aemon moves to the window, his weathered hands resting on the stone sill. "I knew a man once who claimed descent from those ancient kings. He believed in dragons and prophecy, magic and destiny." The old maester's voice grows distant. "He said the blood of old Valyria remembers what common men forget." "Valyrian blood?" Jon asks, something stirring in his memory. "Maester Luwin taught us a few phrases in High Valyrian. Valar Morgulis, Valar Dohaeris. All men must die, all men must serve." Aemon turns sharply, his sightless eyes seeming to focus on Jon with startling intensity. "You speak the old tongue." Jon shifts uncomfortably under the maester's scrutiny. "Only what I was taught. The Targaryens spoke High Valyrian, so maesters learn it to read their histories." "Indeed they did." Aemon's voice is carefully neutral. "Can you read Valyrian script as well as speak the words?" "A little. The letters are similar to common tongue, though the grammar follows different patterns." Jon pauses, unsure why this matters. "Is it important for raven keeping?" "Knowledge is always important, young Snow. But tell me, why do you think Maester Lewin included you in such lessons? High Valyrian is not commonly taught to. Aemon lets the sentence hang. To bastards, Jon finishes quietly. I don't know, Maester. Lord Stark insisted I learn alongside his true-born children. He said wisdom belonged to anyone willing to accept it. Sam glances between them, sensing undercurrents he doesn't understand. The ravens shift restlessly on their perches, responding to tensions in the room. Aemon walks slowly back to his desk, each step measured and deliberate. Your Lord Stark sounds like a man who understands the burden of secrets. Sometimes we protect those we love by hiding truths too dangerous to speak. What do you mean? Jon asks. Nothing, perhaps, or everything. Aemon settles into his chair with a sigh. I was thinking of my own past, the choices that brought me here. I once faced a decision between love and duty, between claiming what was mine by right and serving a greater purpose. Jon leans forward, drawn by something in the old man's tone. What did you choose? Always duty. Aemon's fingers trace patterns on the wooden desk. I was offered a crown once, boy. The lords of the realm thought me better suited to rule than my younger brother. I could have taken it, claimed the throne that was mine by birth and age. But you refused, Sam says, his voice hushed with awe. I refused. My brother Aegon needed the crown more than I did. The realm needed a king who desired to rule, not one who saw kinship as a burden. Aemon's voice grows stronger. I chose to serve from shadows instead of commanding from thrones. Sometimes the greatest duty is knowing when to step aside. Jon stares at the old maester with new understanding. You were a prince, maester, man of the Night's Watch. In the end, we are all the sum of our choices. Aemon meets Jon's gaze, though he cannot truly see him. Tell me, young Snow, have you ever felt the weight of choices you did not make? Of paths you cannot take because of the circumstances of your birth? The question strikes Jon like a physical blow. He thinks of Winterfell's great hall, of sitting at the high table's end, while true-born Starks occupied places of honor, of loving a father who could never claim him publicly, of siblings who were not truly siblings, despite their shared affection. Every day, Jon admits quietly, I love my family, but I'm not truly part of it. At Winterfell, I belonged but stood apart. Here at Castle Black, I'm just another bastard who took the black. If you discovered your place in the world was different than you believed. Jon considers this carefully. I don't think it would matter, Maester. A man is what his actions make him, not what his birth declares. Lord Stark taught me that honor comes from choices, not bloodlines. Aemon's ancient heart pounds against his ribs. The boy speaks with the wisdom of kings, the understanding that true nobility lies in service rather than privilege. More telling still, Jon's words echo those Aemon spoke to his own father decades ago when he chose a maester's chain over a golden crown. Wise words, Aemon manages. Your Lord Stark raised you well. A raven's harsh cry interrupts their conversation. One of the larger birds has arrived from the south, a scroll tied to its leg with red ribbon. Aemon recognizes the marking immediately. News from King's Landing, he says, extending his arm. The raven hops onto his wrist, and Aemon carefully removes the message. His fingers trace the raised seal before breaking it. Sam, would you read this? My eyes are not what they once were. Sam takes the parchment and unfolds it carefully. His voice wavers as he reads. To Lord Commander Mormont, from Grand Maester Pycelle. Recent events in the capital have created tensions requiring careful observation. The hand of the king grows ill with concerns of succession, and, and questions of legitimacy. Jon straightens. Lord Aeron is sick. So it would seem. Aemon says grimly. Political illness is often more dangerous than physical ailments. When great lords begin questioning legitimacy, it usually means they have discovered uncomfortable truths. What kind of truths? Sam asks innocently. Aemon exchanges a meaningful look with Jon, though neither can see the other clearly. The kind that start wars, young Tarly. When kings and kingdoms rest on lies, truth becomes the most dangerous weapon in the realm. As afternoon shadows lengthen, Jon and Sam continue their work with the ravens, but Aemon's words echo in Jon's mind, creating questions he cannot answer. What truths could be so dangerous that they threaten kingdoms? What lies support the thrones of kings? Meanwhile, Aemon watches Jon from the corner of his eye, noting how the boy's hands gentle even the most aggressive birds. Ravens respond to dragon blood, an old secret known to few maesters. The fact that these creatures accept Jon so readily suggests possibilities too dangerous to voice. The old maester makes his decision as the sun sets behind grey clouds. Tomorrow, he will test his theory more directly. If Jon Snow carries the blood of kings in his veins, Aemon must know before the realm tears itself apart, searching for truths that may stand before them wearing a bastard's name. The Game of Thrones cares nothing for the wall's ancient purpose, but the wall may yet play a role in the game, especially if the last dragon roosts among ravens, hidden in plain sight at the edge of the world. The storm reaches Castle Black just after sunset, driving ice and snow against the ancient stones with howling fury. Wind tears through every gap in the walls, and the temperature drops until breath freezes in the air. In the rookery, Jon Snow tends to the ravens, while Maester Aemon sits by the brazier, its flames dancing wildly in the draughts. The birds grow restless in weather like this, Aemon observes, listening to the agitated cries echoing through the chamber. They sense things we cannot, feel the pressure in their bones. Jon moves carefully between the perches, speaking softly to calm the frightened creatures. His voice carries clearly despite the storm's roar, and the ravens respond to his presence with obvious trust. They're afraid, he says, extending his hand to a large female that flaps her wings anxiously. The storm confuses them. Fear is wisdom when danger threatens, Aemon replies. These birds have survived because they know when to flee and when to shelter. He pulls his robes tighter against the cold. Tell me, Jon, do you ever feel like these ravens, trapped between the urge to fly and the need for shelter? Jon pauses in his ministrations, considering the question. The brazier's light flickers across his face, casting shadows that dance with each gust of wind. Every day, Maester. At Winterfell, I longed to prove myself worthy of my father's name. Here at Castle Black, I wonder if I've simply traded one cage for another. And what would you do if the cage door opened? If you could fly wherever you chose? I don't know. Jon's voice grows quiet, almost lost beneath the storm. I've never known anywhere I truly belonged. Always welcome, never home. Always watched, never seen for what I am rather than what I'm not. Aemon's ancient heart aches at the loneliness in those words. He has felt that same isolation, the burden of blood that sets one apart from ordinary men. Perhaps belonging is not about where you are, but who you choose to become. Wise words, Maester. Though sometimes I think I'll spend my whole life searching for a place where I'm not Lord Stark's bastard, or some night's watchman's burden. A sudden crash echoes through the rookery as one of the shutters tears loose in the wind. Ravens cry out in alarm, and one of the younger birds flutters frantically, striking its wing against the perch. Jon moves quickly to help the injured creature, but it struggles against his touch in its panic. "Easy," Jon murmurs, reaching up to calm the bird. "You're safe here." The hood of his cloak falls back as he stretches to reach the high perch, and, for the first time since Jon's arrival at Castle Black, his face is fully illuminated by the brazier's dancing flames. The light catches his features in perfect clarity, revealing what shadows and distance have kept hidden. Maester Aemon turns toward the sound of Jon's voice, and, despite his near blindness, the combination of firelight and proximity allows him to see what he has long suspected, but never dared believe. Jon's eyes, revealed in the warm glow, are not the grey of Stark bloodline. They are purple, the deep, unmistakable purple of old Valyria, the colour that marked the Dragon Lords of ancient times, the colour of Prince Rhaegar's eyes. Aemon's breath catches audibly, and his weathered hands grip the arms of his chair. For a moment that stretches like eternity, he stares at those eyes and sees not Jon Snow, but another face entirely, silver hair and purple eyes. A young man who spoke of prophecy and dragons, who loved songs more than swords, and died for a woman's love at the Trident. "Rhaegar," Aemon whispers, so softly the word is nearly lost in the wind. Jon secures the injured raven and turns, his hood still down. He notices Aemon's rigid posture and the strange expression on the old man's face. "Maester, are you unwell? You look as if you've seen a ghost." "Perhaps I have." Aemon manages, his voice hoarse with shock. The purple eyes that have haunted his dreams for 15 years now look at him with concern and confusion. "Jon, come closer to the light." Of course. Jon approaches the brazier, his face remaining clearly visible in the flickering glow. The purple in his eyes deepens with the firelight, unmistakable to anyone who knows what to look for. Aemon studies those features with desperate intensity. The shape of the face, the line of the jaw. The way Jon holds his head all echo memories of the Silver Prince who visited this very tower years before Robert's rebellion changed the world. But more than appearance, there is something in Jon's bearing, his natural dignity, that speaks of blood royal. "Maester Aemon, what's wrong?" Jon asks, genuine worry in his voice. "You look ill." Aemon struggles to find words that will not betray the magnitude of his discovery. "Forgive me, boy. The storm brings back old memories, ghosts of the past that should rest in peace." Jon kneels beside Aemon's chair, bringing his face even closer to the light. "What memories trouble you?" For a long moment, Aemon cannot speak. The eyes that look at him with such innocent concern belong to a boy who does not know his own worth, does not understand that the blood of kings flows in his veins. "This is Rhaegar's son, the child born of love and hidden in plain sight beneath a bastard's name." "I remember a young man who looked much as you do now," Aemon says carefully. "He came to me once, seeking counsel about duty and prophecy. He had your eyes, Jon Snow, exactly your eyes. My eyes are nothing special, Maester. Common grey, like the wolves of Winterfell." "Are they?" Aemon reaches out with trembling fingers, stopping just short of touching Jon's face. "Look into the brazier, boy. Tell me what colour you see reflected there." Jon obeys, turning his gaze to the dancing flames. In the polished metal of the brazier's edge, his reflection wavers like a mirage. For the first time, he truly sees what others have always seen but never remarked upon. His eyes, caught in the firelight, shine with unmistakable purple depths. "I don't understand," Jon whispers. "They've always looked grey to me." "Light reveals truth that darkness conceals," Aemon says, his voice barely audible above the storm. "Just as winter reveals the strength of foundations, fire shows the true nature of blood." Jon rises abruptly, backing away from the brazier. "What are you saying, Maester?" Aemon forces his expression into careful neutrality, though his mind races with implications. "Nothing, boy. An old man's ramblings brought on by weather and wine." He struggles to his feet, his movements suddenly unsteady. "I find myself quite weary. Perhaps you could tend the ravens alone for the remainder of the evening." "Of course, but—" "Thank you, Jon. You are most kind." Aemon moves toward the door, each step carefully controlled. "Lock the shutters when the wind calms. The birds need their rest." Alone in his chambers, Aemon paces before his fire like a man possessed. His mind reels with the certainty of what he has discovered, calculating dates and possibilities with the precision of a maester trained to observe and record. Jon Snow was born in 283 AC. The same year, Prince Rhaegar died at the Trident. The boy's age fits perfectly with the timing of the rebellion, with the months when Rhaegar rode south with Lyanna Stark. If they were married in secret, if the child was born of love rather than rape, then Jon Snow is not Ned Stark's bastard at all. He is Aegon Targaryen, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Aemon sinks into his chair as the full weight of this revelation crashes over him. For 15 years, the boy has lived as a bastard, scorned and set apart, never knowing that royal blood flows in his veins. Ned Stark, that most honorable of men, has protected the secret at the cost of his own reputation, claiming another man's son as his shame to keep the child safe from Robert Baratheon's hatred. The irony is almost unbearable. Here at the Wall, in the most forsaken place in Westeros, lives the true king of the realm, while pretenders and usurpers scheme for a throne. Built on lies, the rightful heir tends ravens and takes vows that bind him to service. Aemon thinks of his brother Aegon, who ruled as the fifth of his name, with wisdom and justice. This Jon, this Aegon, carries himself with the same natural authority, the same understanding that power exists to serve rather than be served. He has the makings of a great king, if he could claim his birthright. But claim it how? Robert Baratheon would kill the boy the moment his true identity became known. The realm believes all Targaryens are dead or exiled, and most prefer it that way. The dragon's time has passed, they say. The age of kings is done. Yet prophecy speaks of a prince who will unite the realm against the darkness to come. The prince that was promised, born of ice and fire, who will lead the living against the dead. Could Jon Snow, Jon Targaryen, be that prince? Aemon reaches for parchment and quill, then stops. No written word can safely hold such dangerous knowledge. Instead, he must act carefully, testing his theory while protecting the boy from those who would use such information for their own ends. Tomorrow he will begin the delicate work of confirming what his eyes have shown him. There are ways to test dragon blood, old traditions known to few maesters. If Jon truly carries the fire of old Valyria in his veins, it will manifest in ways that cannot be denied. The storm gradually weakens outside his window, and Aemon finally allows himself to consider the impossible possibility that has presented itself. House Targaryen is not extinct. The dragon lives, hidden beneath a bastard's name at the edge of the world. What he does with this knowledge may determine the fate of the realm, but first he must be certain, absolutely certain. For if he is right, Jon Snow is not merely a bastard of Winterfell. He is the king that was promised, waiting to reclaim his throne. The old maester stares into his dying fire and whispers a prayer to gods both old and new. The Game of Thrones has been played without him for decades, but tomorrow it begins anew. And this time, The last of the Targaryens holds a piece that could change everything, if he has the courage to use it. The storm passes before dawn, leaving Castle Black wrapped in unnatural silence. Maester Aemon sits alone in his chambers, staring into the dying embers of his fire. Sleep has not come, will not come, while the weight of discovery presses upon his ancient shoulders. In a single moment, beside the brazier, everything has changed. Jon Snow is Aegon Targaryen. The rightful king of Westeros tends ravens at the wall, unaware that royal blood flows in his veins. Aemon rises from his chair with effort, his joints protesting after a night spent in contemplation. Each step toward his private chest feels momentous, as if he walks not across stone floors, but through the pages of history itself. The decision he makes now will echo through the realm for generations to come. The chest sits in the darkest corner of his chambers, protected by 3 separate locks, whose keys hang on a chain around his neck. Few men living know what treasures rest within, artifacts of a dynasty that ruled for 3 centuries before falling to hammer and rebellion. Aemon's fingers tremble as he opens the first lock. Inside, wrapped in silk and lavender, lies the past. Letters from kings long dead, a silver ring bearing the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen, and at the bottom, folded with reverent care, a cloak that once warmed the shoulders of the most feared man in Westeros, Brynden Rivers, Bloodraven, the king's hand who ruled with 1,000 eyes and one. Aemon lifts the cloak with gentle hands, feeling the weight of history in its folds. The wool is black as midnight, shot through with scarlet threads that catch the firelight like drops of blood. Even after decades in storage, the garment retains its presence, its authority. This is not mere clothing, but a symbol of power exercised in shadow, of duty performed without glory. He remembers Bloodraven from his youth, the albino bastard with the wine-dark birthmark who served as hand under his grandfather King Aerys. Even then, men whispered that Brynden Rivers was more sorcerer than statesman, that his spies reached into every corner of the realm. They called him kinslayer and oathbreaker, yet none could deny his effectiveness in preserving Targaryen rule. "How many eyes does Lord Bloodraven have?" went the riddle that frightened children and nobles alike. 1,000 eyes, and one. The man himself had been striking in his strangeness, albino pale with silver-white hair, and a red birthmark that covered half his face. He dressed always in black and scarlet, the colors of House Targaryen turned dark, some said. Others claimed they were the colors of spilled blood and midnight secrets. Aemon spreads the cloak across his table, studying the intricate weaving. Scarlet threads form subtle patterns in the black wool. Not quite dragons, not quite ravens, but something between the two. Symbols of power that watches from shadows, of authority that need not proclaim itself to be felt. Bloodraven vanished beyond the wall years before Aemon came to Castle Black, lost during a ranging that some claimed was punishment, others called destiny. The official reports spoke of wildling attacks and failed missions. The whispered rumors told different tales entirely, of a man who sought power beyond the wall, magic older than the Targaryen dynasty. But before his disappearance, Bloodraven had been the ultimate servant of House Targaryen, ruthless in defense of the dynasty, merciless to its enemies, yet absolutely loyal to the crown he would never wear. His methods were questioned, his morality debated, but his devotion to Targaryen rule never wavered. Now, in the darkest hour of his house's exile, Aemon holds the last tangible connection to that loyalty. The cloak carries with it the authority of every hand who ever served the Dragon Kings, the weight of every decision made in service to the realm. To place it upon Jon's shoulders would be more than symbolic gesture. It would be coronation. Aemon closes his eyes and lets memory carry him further back, to conversations with Bloodraven before the man's final mission north. They had spoken of prophecy then, of the prince that was promised and the song of ice and fire. Bloodraven claimed to have seen glimpses of the future in flames and dreams, visions of a king who would unite the realm against darkness itself. The dragon must have 3 heads, Bloodraven had said, his mismatched eyes reflecting firelight strangely. But only one need rule when winter comes. The question is whether that one will know himself when the time arrives. At the time, Aemon thought the words referred to Prince Rhaegar and his children. Now, he wonders if Bloodraven saw further than any of them imagined. If his strange sight glimpsed a bastard boy at the wall who would prove to be the most important king in Westeros history, the political implications stagger him. If Jon's true identity became known, the realm would tear itself apart. Robert Baratheon would mobilize every army, from the Wall to Dorne, to destroy the last Targaryen. Yet hidden knowledge serves no purpose, and Jon cannot fulfill his destiny while believing himself a bastard. But what if there were another way? What if the revelation came not as declaration of war, but as restoration of rightful order? The Night's Watch has always stood apart from the Game of Thrones, neutral in the conflicts that divide the realm. If Jon were to be crowned here, at the Wall, it would not threaten Robert's immediate rule. Instead, it would establish an alternative, a legitimate claim held in reserve against the day when the usurper's reign finally crumbles. Aemon thinks of the Raven's message from King's Landing, the tensions surrounding Jon Arryn's illness. The Hand grows suspicious of something, asks dangerous questions about legitimacy. If the truth about Cersei's children comes to light, Robert's dynasty will collapse within a generation. The realm will need a true king then, someone with an unquestionable claim and the wisdom to rule justly. Jon has that wisdom already, though he does not know it. Aemon has watched the boy's natural leadership, his instinct to protect the weak and guide the lost. At 14, he shows more genuine nobility than most kings display in lifetimes of rule. With proper preparation, with knowledge of his heritage and the duties it entails, he could become the king the realm desperately needs. The decision crystallizes as dawn light creeps through his window. Jon must know the truth, must accept the burden of his bloodline, must prepare for the throne that awaits him. But he must also remain at the Wall until the time is right, learning to lead without the corrupting influence of court politics. Aemon moves to his writing desk and selects a piece of parchment. His letters must be subtle, careful inquiries that gather information without revealing dangerous knowledge. He needs to know the current state of the realm's politics, the strength of Robert's rule, the loyalty of the great houses. Only with complete intelligence can he plan Jon's eventual revelation. The first letter goes to the Citadel, ostensibly requesting copies of genealogical records for the Watcher's archives. The second travels to Winterfell, asking after the health of Lord Stark and his family. A third flies to King's Landing, seeking news of the Hand's illness and the stability of the capital. Each message appears routine, the sort of correspondence that regularly passes between maesters and their distant colleagues. None betrays the true purpose behind Aemon's suddenly urgent interest in southern affairs. Yet, together, they will provide the intelligence he needs to protect Jon while preparing for his eventual rise. As he seals the last letter, Aemon's hands pause over the wax. Once these ravens fly, there can be no return to ignorance. He will be actively working to restore a Targaryen to the Iron Throne, gambling his life, and Jon's on the belief that royal blood carries with it royal destiny. But what choice does he have? To let Jon live and die as a bastard would be the greatest tragedy in Westeros history. To waste the bloodline of kings on man in the wall, while usurpers destroy the realm, seems the height of folly. Better to risk everything on the chance that Jon can fulfill the promise written in his purple eyes. The ravens depart with the rising sun, carrying Aemon's carefully worded inquiries south. Now comes the hardest part, revealing the truth to Jon himself. The boy has grown up believing himself a bastard, finding identity in that supposed shame. Learning that he is a king will shatter everything Jon thinks he knows about himself. Yet it must be done. Tonight, when the castle sleeps and no curious ears can overhear, Aemon will summon Jon to these chambers. Here, in the presence of Bloodraven's cloak and the weight of Targaryen history, he will speak words that will change the world. The old Maester kneels slowly before the chest where dragon treasures rest. His lips move in silent prayer to the old gods, whose faces are carved in the heart trees, and to the new gods, whose light guides lost souls home. He prays for wisdom to speak the right words, for strength to bear the burden of such knowledge, and for the courage to place a crown upon a bastard's head. Most of all, he prays that Jon will prove worthy of the trust placed in him, that the boy who tends ravens with gentle hands possesses the strength to wield dragonfire when the realm has need of it. Night cannot come quickly enough. Aemon's ancient heart pounds with anticipation and terror as he contemplates the conversation that awaits. In a few hours, Jon Snow will enter these chambers as a bastard of Winterfell. When he leaves, he will know himself for what he truly is. Aegon Targaryen, sixth of his name, the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms. The dragon lives, and tonight he learns to roar. Midnight bells echo across Castle Black as Jon Snow climbs the spiral stairs to Maester Aemon's chambers. The summons came without explanation, delivered by a silent steward who vanished as quickly as he appeared. Jon's footsteps ring hollow in the narrow stairwell, and unease gnaws at his stomach like hunger. The door to Aemon's solar stands slightly ajar, candlelight spilling through the gap. Jon knocks softly and waits for permission to enter. "Come, Jon Snow," Aemon's voice calls from within. "We have much to discuss before dawn." Jon steps into the chamber and immediately notices the change in atmosphere. Candles burn on every surface, filling the room with warm golden light. The air smells of lavender and old parchment. But underneath lies something else. Anticipation, perhaps, or the weight of momentous decisions. Maester Aemon sits behind his desk, no longer the frail old man who shuffles through daily routines. Tonight he appears transformed, invested with authority that makes Jon want to stand straighter between them. On the wooden surface lies a folded cloak, black wool shot through with scarlet threads that gleam like blood in the candlelight. "Please, sit," Aemon says, gesturing to a chair placed directly across from him. "What I have to tell you will be difficult to hear, more difficult still to accept." Jon settles into the offered seat, his eyes drawn to the strange cloak. "Maester, if this is about my duties, your duties are precisely what we must discuss." Aemon's blind eyes seem to focus on Jon's face with unnerving intensity. "Tell me, boy, what do you know of your birth?" The question catches Jon off guard. "My birth? I know what everyone knows. I'm Lord Stark's bastard, born of some woman he met during Robert's rebellion. And you have never questioned this tale? Never wondered why Lord Stark, renowned for his honor, would father a bastard and bring that shame home to his wife?" Jon shifts uncomfortably. The question has haunted him since childhood, whispered in dark moments, when loneliness overcame good sense. "Men make mistakes in war, Maester, even honorable men." "Do they?" Aemon leans forward, his weathered hands flat on the desk. Ned Stark fought that war to avenge his father and brother, to restore his best friend to the throne. Do you think such a man would betray his marriage vows for a moment's pleasure? I don't know. Jon's voice grows small. He's never spoken of my mother, because she was not some tavern wench or camp follower. Aemon says quietly, because the truth of your parentage is far more dangerous than any bastard's shame. Jon's heart pounds against his ribs. What are you saying? Aemon rises slowly and moves to stand beside the window. Moonlight catches his silver hair, making him appear almost ethereal in the candlelit chamber. I am saying, Jon Snow, that everything you believe about yourself is a lie told from love. That's impossible. Lord Stark would never. Lord Stark has done exactly what any father would do to protect his child. Aemon turns to face Jon directly. He claimed another man's son as his bastard to save that boy from a king's wrath. The words hit Jon like physical blows. He grips the arms of his chair, struggling to process what Aemon suggests. Another man's son? Whose son? Look at yourself, boy. Truly look. Aemon moves back to his desk, his movements deliberate and measured. You have the Stark coloring, yes, but not their features. Your face is longer, your build more slender. And your eyes, he pauses meaningfully. Your eyes are not grey, Jon Snow. They never have been. Jon's hand moves involuntarily to his face. My eyes are grey, like ghosts, like the wolves of Winterfell. Are they? Last night in the rookery, when the firelight caught your face, I saw their true colour. Purple, Jon. The deep purple of old Valyria. The mark of Dragon Lord blood. Dragon Lord blood? Jon laughs shakily. Maester, you're speaking madness. I'm a bastard from the north, not some. You are Aegon Targaryen. Aemon says with quiet finality, sixth of his name, rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms, son of Prince Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark. Silence falls like a hammer blow. Jon stares at Aemon, his mouth open, his mind reeling. The words make no sense, cannot be true, yet they explain so much that never made sense before. No, Jon whispers. No, that's Rhaegar kidnapped Lyanna. He raped her, started a war. She died giving birth to stillborn children. She died giving birth to you. Aemon's voice carries absolute certainty. But not as Rhaegar's victim. As his wife, married in secret before the old gods, you were born of love. Jon, not violence. Jon shoots to his feet, pacing away from the desk. You're wrong. This is some jest, some mistake. I'm Ned Stark's bastard son, nothing more. Ned Stark is the most honorable man in Westeros, Aemon replies calmly. Do you think he would father a bastard? Or do you think he would claim a bastard to protect his sister's son from Robert Baratheon's hatred? The question stops Jon in his tracks. He thinks of Ned's face whenever Jon's parentage was mentioned. The pain that flickered there, the careful way he chose his words. He loved her, Jon says slowly. He loved Lyanna more than anyone. And she loved Rhaegar, despite what the histories claim. Your father was not the monster Robert painted him to be. He was a prince who sang sad songs and spoke of prophecy, who believed in something greater than conquest or crown. Jon sinks back into his chair, his legs suddenly weak. How can you know this? How can you be certain? Because I knew Rhaegar. Aemon's voice grows distant with memory. He visited me here, years before the rebellion. He had your eyes, Jon. Exactly your eyes. He spoke of the prince that was promised, of a song of ice and fire that would save the realm from darkness. But the dates, I would have been born during the war. You were born at the Tower of Joy in Dawn, in the last months of Robert's rebellion. Lyanna died in that tower, but not before making Ned promise to protect her child. He brought you home and claimed you as his own, sacrificing his reputation to save your life. Jon's world tilts on its axis. Every certainty, every assumption about his identity crumbles like ice in spring. If this is true, if I'm really, you are the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, Aemon says gently. The last legitimate son of the Dragon Kings, hidden at the wall while usurpers rule in your stead. But Robert won the throne by conquest. The Targaryens were overthrown. Their reign ended. Blood provides eternal right. Aemon moves to the cloak on his desk, his fingers tracing the scarlet threads. This belonged to Brynden Rivers, called Bloodraven. He served as hand to my grandfather, protecting Targaryen rule with methods others called extreme. Before he vanished beyond the wall, he spoke of prophecies and princes, of dragons that would return when the realm had greatest need. Jon stares at the cloak, understanding beginning to dawn. You mean to crown me. I mean to acknowledge what you already are. Aemon lifts the garment carefully, holding it like the precious artifact it represents. For 15 years you have lived as a bastard, scorned and set apart. But royal blood cannot be denied forever. The realm will need a true king when the current order crumbles. The Night's Watch takes no part in the affairs of the realm. I swore vows. You have not yet taken final vows, Aemon interrupts. And even if you had, kings can release men from service when duty demands it. Your duty is not to the wall alone, Jon. It is to the realm, to the people who will suffer under weak kings and false rulers. Jon's hands shake as he processes the magnitude of what Aemon proposes. Robert would kill me the moment he learned my true name. Robert grows old and fat on his throne while the realm decays around him. His own children are not his. His queen plots against him. His brothers scheme for power. Aemon's voice grows urgent. The system he built on Robert's wrath cannot last. When it falls, the realm will need someone with a legitimate claim and the wisdom to rule justly. I don't know how to be a king. You know how to lead men, how to protect the weak, how to make hard choices for the greater good. Aemon sets the cloak on the desk between them. I have watched you these past weeks, seen how others respond to your natural authority. You have the makings of a great king if you will accept the burden. Jon stares at the black and scarlet cloak, his mind spinning with implications. To accept it would mean acknowledging that everything he believed about himself was false. It would mean accepting responsibility for an entire realm, for the lives of millions who know nothing of his existence. But it would also mean that Ned Stark's love was genuine, not duty. That his noble bearing came from noble blood. That his sense of justice and protection had royal precedent. It would explain why he never felt he belonged anywhere, because his true place was on a throne stolen by rebellion. If I accept this, Jon says slowly, if I believe what you're telling me, what happens next? Aemon's weathered face breaks into the first genuine smile Jon has ever seen from him. Next, Aegon Targaryen learns to be the king his father always believed he could become. The old Maester lifts Bloodraven's cloak, its weight heavy with history and promise. Are you ready, Jon Snow, to become who you were always meant to be? Jon looks into Aemon's blind eyes and sees not madness, but truth, not fantasy, but destiny waiting to be claimed. The boy who entered this chamber as a bastard must choose whether to leave as a king. The choice, like the crown itself, cannot be delayed forever. Yes, Jon whispers, his voice barely audible. I'm ready. Outside, The wind howls through the gaps in Castle Black's ancient walls, carrying with it the promise of change. The last dragon stirs from his long slumber, and the realm will never be the same. The night air beyond Castle Black's walls cuts like a blade forged of ice and starlight. Maester Aemon moves slowly through the knee-deep snow, his breath misting in the frigid darkness. Behind him, Jon Snow follows in silence, Bloodraven's cloak heavy in his arms like the weight of destiny itself. They walk northward, away from the warmth and light of the castle, toward the heart tree that stands sentinel in the haunted forest. The ancient weirwood rises from the snow like a pale giant, its bone-white bark gleaming under the moon's cold light. The face carved into its trunk stares down at them, with eyes red as blood, as if the old gods themselves have gathered to witness what transpires this night. "Here," Aemon says, stopping before the heart tree, "where the old gods can see, where their power still runs strong in the earth. This is where kings were crowned, in the days before the conquest, when the blood of the first men ruled from heart trees and stone circles." Jon steps forward, his boots crunching in the virgin snow. Around them, the forest stretches dark and endless, broken only by the pale sentinels of other weirwoods scattered through the wilderness. No sound disturbs the sacred quiet, save their breathing and the whisper of wind through naked branches. "Are you certain this is right, Maester?" Jon asks, his voice barely above a whisper, to crown a kin in secret, with no witnesses but trees and stars. The greatest kings in history were crowned by the gods, not by men, Aemon replies. Aegon the Conqueror needed no ceremony beyond his own will and the fire of his dragons. You carry that same fire in your blood, Jon. It needs no fanfare to make it real. As if summoned by his words, ravens begin to settle in the weirwood's branches. They come silently, dozens of them, their black feathers blending with the darkness until only their eyes gleam like scattered stars. More arrive with each passing moment, until the great tree holds a parliament of corvids that watches with unnatural intelligence. Jon stares up at them in wonder. They know, don't they? Somehow they know what's happening, Raven says softly. They served House Targaryen for 3 centuries, carrying messages between dragon lords and their domains. They respond to the blood of old Valyria in ways that common men cannot understand. The old Maester moves to stand before Jon, his blind eyes focused with surprising clarity. In his hands, he holds a small object that glints in the moonlight, a ring of silver worked with 3 dragon heads, their ruby eyes catching fire from the stars above. "This belonged to my father, King Maekar," Aemon says, holding the ring reverently. "Before that, it was worn by Daeron the Good, and before him, by Aegon the Unlikely. It carries the authority of every Targaryen king who came before, and now it passes to you, trembling not from cold, but from the magnitude of what this moment represents." The ring slides onto his finger with perfect fit, as if forged specifically for him. The moment the metal touches his skin, he feels something change inside him, a stirring of power, a recognition of purpose that goes beyond mere ceremony. "Kneel," Aemon commands, his voice carrying the weight of royal tradition. Jon drops to one knee in the snow before the heart tree, bowing his head beneath its watchful gaze. The cloak rests across his arm, waiting to transform him from bastard to king with its placement upon his shoulders. Aemon raises his voice, speaking words that echo through the forest with surprising power. "By the authority of the old gods and the new, by the right of blood and the weight of prophecy, I acknowledge thee, Jon of House Targaryen, as the rightful heir to the Iron Throne." He lifts Bloodraven's cloak high, its scarlet threads seeming to glow with inner fire. This mantle belonged to Brynden Rivers, called Bloodraven, who served the Dragon Kings as hand and protector. He saw visions of the future, dreams of a prince who would unite the realm against darkness itself. That prince stands before me now. The cloak settles around Jon's shoulders like a living thing, its weight both burden and blessing. The moment the fabric touches him, the ravens overhead cry out in unison, their voices creating a symphony that echoes across the frozen wasteland. The sound sends shivers down Jon's spine that have nothing to do with the cold. Rise, Aegon Targaryen, sixth of his name, Aemon declares. Rise, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men. Rise, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. Jon stands slowly, the cloak shifting around him like dragon wings. He feels transformed, not just in name, but in essence. The bastard boy who knelt in the snow was Jon Snow of Winterfell. The man who rises wears the face of Aegon Targaryen, rightful ruler of Westeros. How do you feel, Your Grace? Aemon asks quietly, the title carrying new weight in the sacred space. Jon, Aegon, looks down at his hands, at the ring that marks his royal blood, at the cloak that connects him to the greatest dynasty in Westerosi history. Different, he says honestly, as if I'm seeing the world through new eyes, understanding things I never grasped before. That is the awakening of your true nature, Aemon explains. The blood of dragons recognizes its own power when given permission to flow freely. You have always been a king, Aegon. Tonight, you simply learn to accept what you are. The newly crowned king looks up at the ravens perched in the weirwood's branches. They regard him with obvious intelligence, their black eyes reflecting starlight like scattered jewels. What happens now? I cannot simply walk into Castle Black wearing a king's cloak and expect men to accept my claim. No, Aemon agrees. Now comes the hardest part, learning to be the king the realm needs while preparing for the day when you can claim your throne openly. He steps closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You must remain Jon Snow to the world, but you must think and act as Aegon Targaryen in your heart. Every decision, every choice, every moment of leadership must be informed by the knowledge of who you truly are. Aegon nods slowly, understanding the burden placed upon him. And when the time comes to reveal myself, you will know. Aemon says with certainty, the realm will show you when it needs its true king to step forward. Until then, you grow stronger, wiser, more worthy of the crown that waits for you. He pauses, studying Aegon's face in the moonlight. But first, you must swear an oath to me as your ancestor and the last keeper of Targaryen loyalty. What oath? Aemon's weathered hands clasp Aegon's shoulders, gripping the royal cloak with reverent fingers. Swear to me that you will use this power for the good of the realm, not for personal glory. Swear that you will protect the innocent and serve justice above all else. Swear that when you take the Iron Throne, you will rule as the best of your ancestors did, with wisdom, compassion, and strength. Aegon meets the old man's blind gaze, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down upon him. I swear it by the old gods and the new, by the fire of my ancestors and the ice of the north that shaped me. I will be the king the realm deserves, not the king my enemies fear. Then it is done, Aemon says, his voice thick with emotion. House Targaryen lives again, and the realm has hope for better days ahead. They stand together in the shadow of the heart tree, king and servant, sharing a moment that will echo through history. Round them, the ravens begin to disperse, carrying word of the coronation to corners of the world where old magic still holds sway. The forest itself seems to exhale, as if releasing breath held since the last dragon died. The return journey to Castle Black passes in contemplative silence. Aegon walks differently now, his posture straighter, his gaze more focused. The cloak remains hidden beneath a common traveling coat, but its presence transforms everything about how he moves through the world. In his chambers, Aemon helps Aegon fold the royal cloak carefully, wrapping it in silk before returning it to the locked chest where dragon treasures wait for better days. The ring remains on Aegon's finger, hidden beneath a leather glove that will become his constant companion. "Remember," Aemon says as they prepare to part ways, "you are Jon Snow to everyone else, only in private, only when we speak alone, will you be the king you were born to be. The secret must be absolute until the realm is ready for your return." Aegon nods, understanding the necessity even as it chafes against his newfound sense of purpose. "How long must I wait?" "That depends on many things. The stability of Robert's reign, the political situation in the south, your own growth as a leader." Aemon's expression grows serious. "But I promise you this, when the time comes, you will be ready, and the realm will welcome you not as a conqueror, but as a savior." Alone in his quarters, Aegon lies awake staring at the ceiling. Every familiar object in the room looks different now, seen through the eyes of a king rather than a bastard. The narrow bed, the simple furnishings, the black cloak hanging on its peg, all speak of the life he must continue living, while his true identity remains hidden. But beneath the surface, everything has changed. He is no longer Jon Snow, the bastard seeking belonging. He is Aegon Targaryen, the rightful king of Westeros. And the weight of that knowledge settles into his bones like warmth from a hearth fire. Tomorrow, he will return to his duties as a brother of the Night's Watch. He will train with sword and bow, tend ravens with gentle hands, and learn the ways of leadership from men who do not know they serve a king. But tonight, in the silence of his chamber, he allows himself to dream of dragons and thrones, of a realm united under his rule. The last dragon has awakened from his long sleep. Now he must learn to fly. Outside his window, Castle Black slumbers in ignorance of the miracle that has occurred beyond its walls. In the morning, they will see only Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell. They will never suspect that their newest brother wears a crown invisible to mortal eyes, or that destiny itself has taken residence in their ancient stronghold. The Game of Thrones has a new player, and he carries fire in his blood. Dawn breaks grey and cold over Castle Black, as Jon Snow, now Aegon Targaryen in all but name, emerges from his chambers for the first time since his coronation. The leather glove on his right hand conceals the silver ring that marks his royal blood, while beneath his black cloak, the memory of Bloodraven's mantle weighs upon his shoulders like invisible armor. He moves through the corridors differently now, his steps more measured, his posture unconsciously straighter. The change is subtle, but unmistakable to those who know how to look. Jon carries himself with the quiet authority of one who understands his true worth, even if that understanding must remain hidden from the world. In the common hall, brothers break their fast on black bread and salted pork. Jon takes his usual place at the long wooden table, but several recruits notice something different about him immediately. "You look like you slept well, Snow," Gren observes, spooning porridge into his mouth. "Better than you have since arriving. I had some things to sort through in my mind. I think I understand my place here better now. Your place is the same as ours, freezing our asses off on the wall, while the rest of the realm forgets we exist." Perhaps, John replies quietly. But something in his tone makes the others look at him more carefully. Or perhaps our service here has more meaning than we know. Samwell Tarly enters the hall, moving awkwardly as always, but seeking John's company with obvious relief. The fat boy has grown to depend on John's protection, but this morning he senses something different about his protector. "John," Sam says, settling beside him with difficulty. "Ser Alistair wants us in the yard in an hour. He's pairing me against Rast again." "No," John says, his voice carrying quiet finality. "He's not." "What do you mean?" "I mean you won't be fighting Rast today or any day when the match is unfair." John rises from the table, his decision already made. "Come with me." He leads Sam from the hall, leaving the other recruits exchanging puzzled glances. Jon Snow has always been protective of the weak, but this new decisiveness in his voice suggests something fundamental has changed. They find Sir Alistair Thorne in the armory, inspecting practice swords with his usual sneer. The Master-at-Arms looks up as John and Sam approach, his thin lips twisting with anticipated cruelty. "Snow," Thorne says, "come to beg for your fat friend again." "No, sir," John replies, meeting Thorne's gaze without flinching. "I've come to request a different training arrangement for Sam. He has skills that would serve the Watch better than swordplay." Thorne's eyebrows rise in mock surprise. "Skills? What skills could this ball of lard possibly possess?" John's jaw tightens at the insult, but he controls his anger with effort that would have been impossible before his coronation. Kings do not lose their temper over petty cruelties. They find solutions. Sam knows letters and numbers better than half the brothers here. He's read more books than most maesters and has a memory for detail that could serve our correspondence and record-keeping. John's voice remains steady and reasonable. "The Watch needs scholars as much as it needs swords." "The Watch needs men who can fight," Thorne snarls. "Not soft boys who faint at the sight of blood." "Then let me prove my point," John says, his tone shifting slightly. For the first time, there is something in his voice that makes Thorne pause, an undertone of command that seems to come from somewhere deeper than a bastard's determination. "What do you propose?" "Give Sam duties that use his strengths. Let him assist Maester Aemon with the ravens and records. In exchange, I'll take additional training myself, extra sessions, harder opponents, whatever challenges you think appropriate." Thorne studies John's face, searching for weakness or deception. Instead, he finds something that unsettles him. A quiet confidence that was not there before. A sense that Jon Snow somehow expects his request to be granted. "You'd trade your own ease for the fat boy's comfort." "I'd trade my comfort for the good of the Night's Watch," John corrects. "Sam's talents are wasted in the yard. Mine can handle whatever extra burden you assign." Something in John's manner gives Thorne pause. There is authority in the boy's voice now, a natural expectation of being heard and obeyed that sets Thorne's teeth on edge. Yet he cannot quite refuse such a reasonable request. "Fine," Thorne says finally. "Tarly can tend ravens and scribble letters. You'll train twice as long to make up for coddling him." John inclines his head gracefully, as if accepting tribute rather than punishment. "Thank you, sir. I'm sure Sam will serve the Watch well in his new capacity." As they leave the armory, Sam stares at John in amazement. "How did you do that? Sir Alistair never listens to anyone, especially not recruits." "Sometimes you have to speak differently to be heard," John says, thinking of lessons learned in a single night that will take years to fully understand. Authority isn't always about raising your voice. That afternoon, John reports to Maester Aemon's chambers, where Sam already assists with filing correspondence. The old maester watches John carefully, noting subtle changes in the boy's demeanor since their midnight ceremony. "You handled Sir Alistair well," Aemon observes as John helps organize scrolls. Not many recruits could convince him to change his training methods. "I tried to appeal to his sense of efficiency," John replies. "Waste bothers him more than kindness moves him." "Wisdom," Aemon says approvingly. "A king must understand what motivates men if he hopes to lead them effectively." Sam looks up from his writing, confused by the reference. John catches his friend's expression and feels a stab of guilt at the deception required to maintain his secret. "Maester Aemon," John says carefully, "might I borrow some books about the history of leadership? I find myself curious about how great men have handled difficult situations." "Of course," Aemon replies, understanding the request's deeper meaning. "I have several works about notable rulers and their methods. Perhaps you would enjoy reading about the Targaryen kings. They've faced unique challenges in uniting a fractured realm." That evening, John studies by candlelight in his small chamber. The books Aemon provided contain the official histories of his ancestors, their triumphs and failures, laid out in careful detail. He reads about Aegon the Conqueror's methods of winning loyalty, about Jaehaerys the Conciliator's skill at negotiation, about the mistakes that led to the dynasty's eventual fall. Each page teaches him something new about the crown that awaits him, the responsibilities that come with dragon blood, the careful balance between strength and mercy that defines a good king. He begins to understand that his time at the wall is not exile from his destiny, but preparation for it. Sleep brings dreams unlike any he experienced as Jon Snow. He sees dragons soaring over ice-locked battlefields, their flames driving back shadows that reach toward the realm of men. He hears songs in languages he does not know, but somehow understands. Prophecies spoken in voices that echo across centuries. In the deepest dream, he stands before the Iron Throne, wearing a crown of ice and fire, while a voice whispers words that burn themselves into his memory. The prince that was promised will unite the realm when the long night falls. His is the song of ice and fire. He wakes with those words echoing in his mind, their meaning just beyond his grasp, but their importance undeniable. Jon. Aegon lies in the darkness, understanding that his dreams carry more weight than mere fantasy. The blood of old Valyria runs strong in his veins, and with it comes glimpses of futures yet unwritten. Over the following weeks, the changes in Jon become more pronounced. He speaks with quiet authority during training sessions, offering suggestions that even the older brothers find worth considering. His natural leadership abilities, always present but constrained by his bastard status, now express themselves with growing confidence. "Snow's different lately," Gren mentions to Pip one evening. "More sure of himself. Like he knows something the rest of us don't. Maybe he's finally accepting that the wall is where he belongs." Pip replies, though doubt colors his voice. "Though he carries himself more like a lord's son than a bastard these days." Jon overhears their conversation and feels the weight of his deception. Every compliment cuts both ways. Validation of his royal nature, shadowed by guilt over the lies necessary to maintain his secret. He begins to understand why his father, his adoptive father, so rarely spoke of difficult truths. Some knowledge carries too high a price for casual sharing. Maester Aemon provides guidance during their private conversations, helping Jon navigate the complex emotions of his transformation. Guilt is a luxury you cannot afford, the old Maester tells him during one of their evening sessions. Every day you spend feeling sorry for necessary deceptions is a day not spent preparing to be the king the realm will need. But how can I live a lie with men who consider me their brother? Jon asks, How can I accept their loyalty while hiding my true nature? By using that loyalty to become worthy of a crown. Aemon replies firmly. By learning to lead them so well that when the truth finally comes to light, they will understand why the deception was necessary. As winter deepens around Castle Black, ravens arrive with disturbing news from the south. Letters speak of growing tensions in King's Landing, of the Hand's continuing illness, of whispers about succession and legitimacy that echo through the corridors of power. Jon reads these reports with new understanding, seeing political implications that would have escaped him before his coronation. The realm grows unstable, and with each passing week, the possibility of revelation draws closer. The Game of Thrones accelerates. Aemon observes after sharing particularly troubling news about court intrigues. Soon, the players will need to reveal their true pieces. Jon touches the hidden ring beneath his glove, feeling its weight like an anchor to destiny. And when that time comes, Aegon Targaryen will be ready to reclaim his birthright. Aemon says with quiet certainty. Until then, Jon Snow continues to learn what it means to serve something greater than himself. That night, Jon stands watch atop the wall, staring south toward a realm that does not know its rightful king guards its northern border. The wind carries hints of the storms to come. Political upheavals that will shake the foundations of the current order and create opportunities for those bold enough to seize them. He is no longer the bastard boy who arrived at Castle Black seeking purpose. The dragon blood in his veins stirs with each passing day, preparing him for the moment when he can step from shadows into light, when Jon Snow's careful mask can finally fall away, to reveal the king beneath. But, for now, he waits and watches and learns, growing stronger with each challenge overcome, wiser with each lesson absorbed. The true test of his character lies not in claiming a crown, but in proving worthy of it through service to others. The last dragon dreams of fire, while winter winds whistle through the ancient stones of the wall, and the realm sleeps unaware that its salvation watches from the edge of the world. The raven arrives at dawn, with wings blackened by frantic flight and exhaustion etched in every line of its body. Jon Snow watches from the rookery window as the bird struggles toward Castle Black, its harsh cries cutting through the morning air like a blade through silk. Something in its desperate approach fills him with dread that has nothing to do with the cold. Maester Aemon takes the message with trembling fingers, his blind eyes turning toward Jon as he breaks the seal. The red wax bears the direwolf of House Stark, but something in Aemon's expression suggests the muse within carries more weight than routine correspondence. "Read it aloud, Sam," Aemon says quietly, extending the parchment toward the young steward. Samwell Tarly's voice wavers as he unfolds the message. "To Lord Commander Mormont, and all brothers of the Night's Watch, from Maester Luwin of Winterfell. By the time this reaches you, terrible events will have transpired in King's Landing. Lord Eddard Stark, Hand of the King, has been arrested on charges of treason. King Robert is dead, killed in a hunting accident, and Prince Joffrey has claimed the Iron Throne. War threatens the realm." The words hit Jon like hammer blows to his chest. He grips the window ledge until his knuckles turn white, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Ned Stark, his father in every way that matters, imprisoned by the Lannisters, while Jon remains trapped at the wall by vows he has not yet fully taken. "Continue," Aemon commands, though his own voice carries the weight of terrible understanding. Lord Stark stands accused of plotting against the crown and challenging Prince Joffrey's legitimacy. Queen Cersei is moved swiftly to secure power, arresting all those loyal to the former hand. The situation grows more desperate with each passing hour. May the gods protect us all. Sam's voice dies to a whisper as he finishes reading. The rookery falls silent, except for the agitated cries of ravens, who sense the distress of their human companions. Jon turns from the window, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. I have to go to him. I have to help. Jon, Aemon begins, but the younger man's voice cuts through his counsel like a sword. He's innocent. Whatever Cersei claims, whatever charges she's invented, Ned Stark is innocent. He's the most honorable man in Westeros, and now he's trapped in that pit of vipers because he tried to do what was right. And what do you propose to do? Aemon asks carefully. Ride south alone to storm the Red Keep. Challenge the Queen's guards with your single sword. Jon paces the small chamber like a caged wolf, his mind racing with possibilities and plans. I'll gather men, northern lords who remember their loyalty to House Stark. There are still those who what? Aemon's voice carries the weight of hard experience. Who will rally to a bastard's call? Who will risk their lands and lives for Jon Snow when they would not move for Ned Stark himself? The words sting because they carry truth. But Jon's royal blood rebels against such passive acceptance. Then what would you have me do? Sit here and tend ravens while my father rots in the black cells? Aemon rises slowly from his chair, his weathered hands clasping Jon's shoulders with surprising strength. I would have you remember who you are, Aegon Targaryen. I would have you think like a king, not like a desperate boy. Jon's anger cools slightly at the use of his true name, the reminder of his greater destiny, tempering his immediate impulse to action. What do you mean? I mean that kings must think beyond personal desires, to the good of the realm. Yes, Ned Stark is in danger, but revealing yourself now, charging south, unprepared, would accomplish nothing but your own death and the end of the Targaryen restoration. Sam watches this exchange with growing confusion, understanding that undercurrents he cannot grasp flow between the two men. Jon, what is he talking about? Why does he call you? Later, Sam, Jon says without taking his eyes from Aemon, Tell me your counsel, Maester. How does a king respond to this crisis? A king thinks strategically. Aemon's voice grows stronger, taking on the authority of a teacher guiding a pupil through a crucial lesson. He considers all the pieces on the board, not just the ones that touch his heart. What do we know about this situation? Jon forces himself to step back from his emotional response, drawing upon the lessons he has absorbed about Targaryen statecraft. Robert is dead, but his death was convenient for the Lannisters. Too convenient. Indeed. And what does that suggest about Joffrey's claim? Understanding begins to dawn in Jon's eyes. That it's as illegitimate as I always suspected. If Robert's children are not truly his, then Joffrey has no right to the throne, which means the realm is ruled by usurpers who gained power through murder and deception. Aemon's blind eyes seem to focus on Jon with startling intensity. The question becomes, what should the rightful king do when pretenders seize his throne? Jon's mind races as the political implications become clear. He should gather his own supporters, build a coalition of those loyal to legitimate rule, strike when the time is right, not when emotion demands it. Wisdom, Aemon says approvingly. But first, he must survive long enough to press his claim. Charging south now would serve only to eliminate the greatest threat to Lannister power. So, I do nothing while Ned Stark suffers for my sake. The words taste bitter in Jon's mouth. You do everything possible to help him that does not require revealing yourself prematurely. Aemon moves to his writing desk, pulling out fresh parchment and quill. We have tools at our disposal, connections that can be activated carefully. Jon watches as the old Maester begins composing messages, his weathered hand moving with surprising speed. What are you writing? Letters to certain lords in the north, men who served House Stark loyally and might be convinced to act if approached properly. Nothing that directly mentions you or your true identity, but suggestions that not all hope is lost, and if they refuse to help. The Game of Thrones has many players, John. Some are obvious pieces, lords with armies, kings with crowns. Others move in shadow, influencing events through whisper and suggestion. Sam shifts nervously in his corner, overwhelmed by the political maneuvering he witnesses, but afraid to interrupt. John notices his friend's distress and makes a decision that will change everything. Sam, John says quietly, what I'm about to tell you could mean your death if shared with the wrong people. But I need allies, and I trust you above all others here. What's going on? John takes a deep breath, knowing that this moment represents a point of no return. My name is not Jon Snow. It's Aegon Targaryen. I'm the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, son of Prince Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark. Sam's round face goes pale, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Finally, he manages a single word. What? Ned Stark is not my father by blood, but he raised me to protect me from Robert's hatred. Everything I believed about myself was a lie told from love. Jon's voice grows stronger as he speaks the truth aloud. Maester Aemon has confirmed my heritage and crowned me in secret. Now I must decide how to use that knowledge to save the realm. You're a king. Sam's voice breaks on the word. I'm a king without a throne, a dragon without fire. Jon's hand moves to touch the hidden ring beneath his glove. But I'm learning that true kinship comes from serving others, not from commanding them. Sam stares at Jon, as if seeing him for the first time, noting the subtle changes that make perfect sense now. The increased confidence, the natural authority, the way other brothers have begun deferring to his judgment without quite knowing why. What do you need me to do? Sam asks finally, his voice steadier than before. Help me identify brothers who might support a Targaryen restoration when the time comes. Men who understand that the current order is built on lies and murder. Jon's eyes meet Sam's directly. I can't reveal myself to the entire watch yet, but I need to know who might stand with me when the moment arrives. Aemon looks up from his writing. Carefully, Jon. The Night's Watch has no love for Targaryens. Too many brothers remember the Mad King's cruelties. You must choose your allies with great care. Then help me choose them, Jon says. You've been here longer than anyone. You know which men prize honor over prejudice, justice over convenience. Jeor Mormont, perhaps, Aemon muses. He's served House Stark loyally and knows the value of legitimate rule. Some of the older rangers who remember what Westeros was like under good kings. Jon nods, already planning his approach. We move slowly, carefully. I reveal myself to one man at a time, building trust before moving to the next. By the time I'm ready to act openly, I'll have a core of supporters within the Watch itself. And what about Ned Stark? Sam asks quietly. Can we help him? Jon's face hardens with determination. We can and we will. But as Aegon Targaryen, not as Jon Snow, the rightful king has resources that a bastard lacks, connections that can be activated without revealing the source. Aemon seals the first of his letters, marking it with symbols that will identify it to certain recipients as more than routine correspondence. The game begins in earnest now. Every move must be calculated, every alliance carefully weighed. I understand, Jon says, though the weight of responsibility settles on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. But understand this as well. Ned Stark will not die for protecting me. Whatever it takes, Whoever I must reveal myself to, I will not let the man who saved my life pay the price for my existence." "Spoken like a true king," Aemon says with approval. "But remember, sometimes the greatest service we can provide is patience. Strike too soon, and you save no one. Strike at the right moment, and you save the realm itself." As ravens begin carrying messages south, bearing coded words to loyal hearts throughout the north, Jon Snow begins his transformation into Aegon Targaryen in earnest. The bastard's mask will remain in place for now, but underneath, a dragon stirs to wakefulness. The Game of Thrones has claimed another player, and this one carries fire in his blood. Night falls over Castle Black, but in the Rookery, candles burn late as a secret king plans his first moves in the great game. Ned Stark's arrest has forced Jon's hand, pushing him from passive acceptance of his destiny toward active pursuit of his crown. The realm sleeps, unaware that its salvation has been awakened by tragedy, that from the ashes of one good man's fall, a dragon rises to reclaim what was always his by right. The last Targaryen prepares for war. 3 days have passed since Jon revealed his true identity to Samwell Tarly, and already the change in their dynamic proves remarkable. Sam approaches their morning duties with new purpose, his usual nervousness replaced by the careful attention of a man who understands he serves a king in exile. In the Rookery, Sam sorts correspondence with unprecedented efficiency, while Jon observes the subtle ways their relationship has shifted. No longer does Sam simply seek protection. Now he offers counsel, his sharp mind finally given worthy purpose. "Your Grace," Sam says quietly, using the title only when they are alone. "I've been thinking about our conversation regarding potential allies." Jon looks up from the raven he tends, noting how naturally Sam has adapted to the truth. "What are your thoughts?" "Grenn and Pipe trust you completely. They've followed your lead since our first day of training, even when they didn't understand why." Sam's voice grows more confident as he speaks. "If anyone could accept your true identity, it would be them. And if they cannot, if they react with fear or anger at being deceived, then we learn something important about the nature of loyalty. But I believe they'll surprise you, Your Grace. They've seen your character every day. The name matters less than the man." Jon nods thoughtfully. Sam's counsel carries wisdom beyond his years, another reminder that intelligence comes in many forms. "Very well. Tonight, after the evening meal, we'll speak with them privately." That evening, Jon leads Grenn and Pipe to an abandoned chamber deep within Castle Black's foundations. The room served as storage once, filled now only with dust and forgotten furniture. Flickering torchlight casts dancing shadows on ancient stones as the 4 young men settle into chairs arranged in a rough circle. "Why all the secrecy?" Pip asks, his usual humor tempered by curiosity. "And why does Sam look like he's about to burst with some great secret, steeling himself for the moment that will either gain him crucial allies or expose his dangerous truth to those who might use it against him? Because I'm about to tell you something that could change everything about how you see me." Grenn's honest face grows serious. "What kind of something?" "The kind that involves kings and thrones and bloodlines that most men believe extinct." Jon's voice remains steady despite his racing heart. "I need you to understand that what I'm about to share could mean death for all of us if it reaches the wrong ears." The 2 friends exchange uncertain glances, but neither rises to leave. Jon takes their silence as permission to continue. "My name is not Jon Snow," he says simply. "It's Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name, rightful heir to the Iron Throne." Silence fills the chamber like a physical presence. Grenn's mouth falls open. while Pip's eyes narrow with something between disbelief and dawning understanding. That's... Gren begins, then stops, processing the magnitude of what Jon claims. Impossible, Jon suggests. I thought the same thing when Maester Aemon first presented the evidence. But the truth remains truth, regardless of our comfort with it. Pipe leans forward, his quick mind already working through implications. Aemon knows. The old Maester is part of this. He's the one who recognized my heritage. Prince Rhaegar was his great-nephew. He saw the family resemblance that others missed. Show them, Sam says quietly. Show them your eyes. Jon removes the leather glove from his right hand, revealing the silver ring with its dragon heads and ruby eyes. He moves closer to the torchlight, allowing the flames to illuminate his face clearly. In the flickering glow, the purple depths of his eyes become unmistakable. 7 hells, Gren whispers. You really are. You're a king. I'm a king without a throne, Jon corrects. A dragon without fire, but, yes, by blood and birthright, I am the rightful ruler of Westeros. Pip studies Jon's face with new understanding. That's why you've been different lately. More confident, more commanding. We thought it was just the wall changing you. The wall has changed me, Jon agrees. But learning who I truly am has changed me more. The question now is whether you can accept that truth and what it means for all of us. Gren struggles with the revelation, his honest nature wrestling with the impossibility of his friend's claim. But Ned Stark, your father, raised me to protect me from Robert Baratheon's hatred. Everything he did, every sacrifice he made, was to keep Rhaegar's son alive until the realm had need of him. Jon's voice grows thick with emotion. He's not my father by blood, but he's more my father than Rhaegar ever could have been. And now he's imprisoned because of who you are, Pip says, his quick mind grasping the political implications. Which is why I need allies. Men I can trust completely, who understand that the current order is built on lies and usurpation. Jon meets each of their gazes in turn. I'm asking you to stand with me, not just as friends, but as subjects to their rightful king. The weight of decision hangs heavy in the dusty air. Finally, Gren pushes himself to his feet and awkwardly drops to one knee before Jon. I don't understand politics or bloodlines or any of that, he says simply, but I know you, Jon Snow. Or Aegon Targaryen, or whatever name you bear. You're the best man I've ever known, and if you say you're meant to be king, then I believe you. Pipe remains seated for a moment longer, his clever eyes studying Jon's face. A Targaryen restoration, he muses. Half the realm will call it madness. The other half will call it justice. He stands and bows, formally. Count me among those who choose justice, Your Grace. Jon feels a weight lift from his shoulders as his friends, now his sworn men, accept his truth. But he knows the hardest conversation still awaits. 2 days later, Jon requests a private audience with Lord Commander Jorah Mormont. The old bear receives him in his solar, the room dominated by maps of the wall and correspondence from across the realm. Sit, Snow, Mormont commands, his weathered face showing the strain of recent political upheavals. These are dark times. News from the south grows worse with each raven. That's why I've come, Lord Commander. I have information that might help you understand the true nature of the crisis facing the realm. Mormont's eyes sharpen. What kind of information? Jon takes a breath, knowing that this moment will either gain him the most crucial ally possible or expose his secret to a man with the power to destroy him. Information about the legitimacy of claims to the Iron Throne. Speak plainly, boy. I have no patience for riddles. Joffrey Baratheon is not Robert's son. The entire Lannister line is built on lies and adultery. Jon's voice grows stronger as he continues, but there is a rightful heir still living, one with an unquestionable claim to the throne. Mormont leans back in his chair, his black eyes never leaving Jon's face. And where might this rightful heir be found? Here, Lord Commander, in this room. The silence stretches between them, like a taut bowstring. Mormont's expression remains carefully neutral, but Jon sees the moment understanding dawns in the old man's eyes. Jon Snow, Mormont says slowly. Or should I say, someone else entirely. Aegon Targaryen, if you can accept such a truth. Staring out at the wall that has defined his life for decades. I served your grandfather's brother faithfully, witnessed the madness that ended their dynasty. What makes you think the realm has any desire to see dragons return? Because I'm not my grandfather, Jon replies. I was raised by the most honorable man in Westeros, taught to serve others rather than to be served. I've learned leadership through protecting the weak, not through commanding the strong. And what proof do you offer beyond your own word? Jon removes his glove, showing the ring that bears his family's arms. Maester Aemon confirmed my identity. He knew Prince Rhaegar personally, recognized the signs others missed. More importantly, he taught me what it means to be worthy of a crown. Mormont returns to his desk, his movements deliberate as he processes what Jon has revealed. If this is true, if you are who you claim, then your presence here changes everything. How so? The Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the realm, but we serve the legitimate king, whoever that may be. Mormont's eyes meet Jon's directly. If you are the rightful heir, then we already serve you by ancient law. Jon feels the weight of command settle upon his shoulders more heavily than ever before. I don't ask for the Watch to abandon its neutrality, but I do ask for your counsel, and, when the time comes, your support in pressing my claim. What support could we offer? We are few, isolated, forgotten by the realm we protect. Quote, you offer legitimacy, Jon explains, his political understanding growing with each conversation. When I reveal myself to the realm, having the Night's Watch's support will demonstrate that I seek to serve, not to conquer, that I understand duty before ambition. Mormont nods slowly. There is wisdom in that. The realm respects the Watch's neutrality precisely because we stand apart from politics. He pauses, studying Jon's face. But what of your vows? You came here to serve the realm of men, not to claim a throne. I came here as Jon Snow, seeking belonging. I remain here as Aegon Targaryen, preparing to serve in ways I never imagined. Jon's voice carries new authority. The realm needs protection from more than wildlings and others, Lord Commander. It needs protection from those who would destroy it through incompetence and corruption. Mormont agrees grimly. Robert's death leaves the realm in chaos. War will come, regardless of what we do here. Then, let it come with a rightful king prepared to restore order and justice. Jon stands, feeling the full weight of his royal heritage. I won't ask you, or any brother, to break your vows. But when the time comes to choose between supporting a usurper's bastard and the rightful heir, I hope you'll remember this conversation. Mormont extends his hand, and Jon clasps it firmly. I'll remember, your grace. And when that time comes, the Night's Watch will stand with the rightful king. That evening, Jon meets with his growing circle of supporters in the same hidden chamber where he first revealed his truth. Sam, Gren, and Pipe have been joined by Dolores Ed and several other brothers who have proven their loyalty and discretion. The Lord Commander knows. Jon announces without preamble. And he supports our cause. The response is immediate: relief, excitement, and growing confidence that their secret king can indeed reclaim his throne. Plans are made, responsibilities assigned, messages crafted to be sent to northern houses that might support a Targaryen restoration. What about the rest of the Watch? Dolorous Ed asks. Some of the brothers remember the Mad King too well to welcome dragons back to the realm. We move carefully, Jon replies, one man at a time, choosing only those who can see past old prejudices to present necessities. We need a core of absolute loyalists before risking broader revelation. As the meeting disperses, Jon realizes how far he has come from the bastard boy who arrived at Castle Black, seeking only belonging. Now he commands men's loyalty, plans political strategies, and prepares for a crown that once seemed impossibly distant. The transformation is not yet complete, but with each ally gained, each lesson learned, each moment of leadership tested, Aegon Targaryen grows stronger, while Jon Snow fades into useful memory. Soon, very soon, the realm will learn that the dragon lives. And when that moment comes, he will be ready to claim his birthright with fire and blood if necessary, but preferably with justice and wisdom. The last Targaryen prepares for war from the most unlikely of strongholds, gathering strength at the edge of the world while his enemies destroy themselves through their own ambitions. The Game of Thrones has never seen a player quite like this. One, a king who learned to serve before learning to command. The raven arrives in the grey hour before dawn, its message written in the desperate script of a man facing death. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, reads Ned Stark's final letter by flickering candlelight, and each word burns itself into his memory like dragonfire. My dearest boy, they mean to take my head at noon today. I go to my death, knowing I kept faith with your mother's memory and your father's love. Be the man I raised you to be, not the king circumstances demand. Your devoted father, Eddard Stark. Jon sets the parchment down with trembling hands, his royal composure finally cracking under the weight of impending loss. Round him in Maester Aemon's chambers, his closest supporters wait in tense silence. When? Lord Commander Mormont asks quietly. Noon today, Jon replies, his voice raw with emotion. At the Sept of Baelor, before the gathered crowds of King's Landing. If we left now, rode hard with fresh horses, we might reach the capital by midday. Might isn't good enough, Jon says, rising to his feet with sudden purpose. It has to be certain. He turns to face the men who have sworn themselves to his cause. I'm done hiding, done waiting for the perfect moment, while good men die for my sake. Maester Aemon's ancient voice cuts through the tension. Your Grace, once you reveal yourself, there can be no return to shadows. The realm will know you live, and every enemy will move against you. Then let them come. Jon moves to the locked chest where his true regalia waits. I've spent too long learning to be king, while the man who raised me pays the price for my existence. He lifts Bloodraven's cloak, its scarlet threads gleaming in the candlelight. Today, Aegon Targaryen reclaims his throne. Within an hour, 30 brothers of the Night's Watch ride south from Castle Black, with their secret king at their head. Jon wears his royal cloak openly now, the black and scarlet marking him unmistakably as heir to the Dragon Kings. The silver ring gleams on his ungloved hand, and across his brow sits a simple circlet of white gold that once belonged to Prince Rhaegar. They ride through the morning like men possessed, changing horses at inns and way stations, with gold provided by Mormont from the Watcher's ancient treasury. Word spreads ahead of their passage. Strange riders in black and scarlet, led by a young man who carries himself like a prince and whose purple eyes burn with dragonfire. Maester Aemon travels in a litter borne by sworn brothers, his presence lending legitimacy to their impossible mission. The old man clutches scrolls and documents that will prove Jon's claim to any who doubt, evidence gathered across decades of careful preparation. By the time they reach the outskirts of King's Landing, crowds line the roads to witness their passage. Some kneel as Jon rides past, recognizing instinctively the royal blood that commands their reverence. Others flee in terror, remembering tales of the Mad King's cruelties and fearing the dragon's return. The bells of the Sept of Baelor toll noon as Jon's company reaches the great plaza where thousands gather to witness an execution. A platform rises in the center of the square, upon which Ned Stark kneels with his hands bound and his head bowed. Above him stands Sir Ilan Payne, the king's justice, his great sword gleaming in the harsh sunlight. On a raised dais overlooking the scene sits the boy king Joffrey Baratheon, his golden crown catching the light as he revels in the crowd's attention. Beside him, Queen Cersei watches with satisfaction, while members of the small council cluster nearby, their faces grave with the weight of the moment. In the name of King Joffrey, first of his name, the herald's voice booms across the plaza. Lord Eddard Stark has been judged guilty of treason and sentenced to die. The crowd roars its approval, but their cheers die away as a new sound echoes through the square. Hoofbeats, the rhythmic thunder of 30 mounted men approaching at full gallop, their leader's cloak streaming behind him like wings of flame. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, rides into the Sept's plaza as the bells finish their death knell. His horse rears dramatically as he brings it to a halt mere yards from the execution platform, Bloodraven's cloak billowing around him like a living thing. Silence falls over the thousands gathered to witness death. Instead, they find themselves staring at a figure from legend, young, beautiful, commanding, with purple eyes that burn with inner fire and a bearing that speaks of ancient royalty. "Stop," Jon commands, his voice carrying clearly across the stunned plaza. "I forbid this execution." Joffrey rises from his throne, his boyish face twisting with rage. Who dares interfere with the king's justice? Jon dismounts gracefully, his movements flowing like water as he walks toward the platform. The crowd parts before him instinctively, creating a clear path to where Ned Stark kneels in chains. "I am Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name, rightful heir to the Iron Throne," Jon declares, his voice ringing with authority that makes even hardened sellswords take a step backward. "And I say that this man dies only over my body." The plaza erupts in chaos. Some in the crowd fall to their knees in shocked recognition, while others cry out in fear or disbelief. The name Targaryen has not been spoken openly in King's Landing for 15 years, and its return sends ripples of terror and hope through the assembled masses. Cersei Lannister rises from her seat, her face pale, with a mixture of fury and fear. "Seize this pretender!" This is some northern trick, some desperate ploy to save the traitor Stark. But her gold cloaks hesitate, unwilling to lay hands on one who claims the blood of dragons. There is something about Jon's presence that gives even the bravest pause, an aura of power that speaks to the deepest instincts of loyalty and submission. "You want proof of my heritage?" Jon calls out, his voice carrying to every corner of the plaza. "Then look upon me with eyes unclouded by Lannister gold." He throws back his cloak, revealing the silver ring of his royal house and the circlet that marks his royal blood. More importantly, he allows the crowd to see his face clearly. The features that echo Prince Rhaegar, the purple eyes that mark the blood of old Valyria. the bearing that no bastard could ever truly counterfeit. Maester Aemon's litter is carried forward, and the ancient Targaryen emerges with careful dignity. His appearance sends another shock through the crowd. Many remember the old Maester who served the realm faithfully for generations before taking the black. "I am Aemon Targaryen," the old man declares, his voice somehow carrying despite his age. "Uncle to the Mad King, great-uncle to Prince Rhaegar, great-great-uncle to this boy who stands before you." He raises a trembling hand toward Jon. "I swear by the old gods and the new that this is Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark, rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms." The crowd's reaction is immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of voices cry out at once, some in joy, some in fear, some in simple amazement at witnessing the return of the Dragon Kings. The very stones of the plaza seem to tremble beneath the weight of their collective response. Ned Stark raises his head. For the first time since Jon's arrival, his grey eyes wide with shock and recognition. He sees not the bastard boy he raised, but the young man that boy has become. Tall, proud, unmistakably royal in bearing and feature. "Jon," Ned whispers, though his voice carries in the sudden quiet. "My boy, but your son in every way that matters. The son you saved, the son you protected, the son you taught to be worthy of the crown he was born to wear." Joffrey's shrill voice cuts through the emotional reunion. "I don't care what lies this pretender speaks. I am the rightful king. Seize him, execute them both." But his commands fall on deaf ears. The crowd has begun to chant, quietly at first, then with growing volume and confidence. "Dragon! Dragon! Long live the Dragon King!" Cersei gestures frantically to her supporters, but even the Lannister loyalists seem uncertain in the face of such overwhelming evidence. The boy before them carries himself with undeniable royal authority, his claims supported by one of the most respected men in the realm. "Your Grace," Lord Commander Mormont steps forward, his weathered voice cutting through the chaos. "As Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, I formally recognize Aegon Targaryen as the rightful king of Westeros." The watch stands with the true heir. One by one, Jon's supporters declare themselves. Sam, Gren, Pipe, and the other Night's Watch brothers who rode south with their king. The crowd takes up their declarations, thousands of voices joining in acclamation of the returned Targaryen. Jon rises and approaches the execution platform where Ser Island Payne stands frozen, uncertain whether to proceed with the execution or flee. "Release Lord Stark," Jon commands, and something in his voice compels obedience. The king's justice steps aside as if in a trance. Other hands, loyal northern men who followed Jon's ravens south, cut Ned's bonds and help the former hand to his feet. The reunion between Jon and Ned is wordless but profound. The older man embraces the younger, and for a moment the crowd sees not a king and his subject, but a father and son whose love transcends the complications of blood and birthright. "How?" Ned asks quietly. "How did you know?" Maester Aemon recognized what others missed. Jon replies, "The signs were always there for those who knew how to look. Purple eyes, royal bearing, a bastard who never quite fit the role." He grips Ned's shoulders firmly. "But the man who raised me matters more than the prince who sired me." Joffrey's rage finally boils over. "Guards, gold cloaks, I command you to arrest these traitors." But they find their path blocked by an unlikely coalition. Northern lords, common folk, even some Lannister soldiers who seem swayed by the evident truth of Jon's claim. The realm recognizes its rightful king, Jon declares, his voice carrying across the plaza with undeniable authority. "Those who serve justice and legitimacy stand with me. Those who serve usurpers and murderers, declare yourselves now." The standoff stretches like a taut bowstring, as two claims to the throne face each other across the blood-stained stones of King's Landing. The boy who stole a crown through treachery and murder faces the young man who claims one through birthright and honor. In that moment, the realm holds its breath and waits to see which king will prevail. The crowd's chanting grows louder, more insistent. "Dragon, dragon, long live King Aegon." Cersei's face twists with desperation as she realizes her carefully laid plans crumbling before her eyes. But Jon pays her no attention. His focus remains on the crowd, on the realm that must choose between legitimacy and usurpation. "People of King's Landing," he calls out, his young voice somehow carrying to every corner of the plaza. "I am your king by right of blood and birth, but I will earn your loyalty through service, not demand it through fear. Choose wisely, for the future of the realm hangs in the balance." The cheers that answer him shake the very foundations of the capital, and Aegon Targaryen knows that his long exile is finally at an end. The dragon has returned to reclaim his throne. 3 days after the confrontation at the Sept of Baelor, Aegon Targaryen sits upon the Iron Throne for the first time. The great sword-forged seat looms above the Red Keep's throne room, its twisted metal arms reaching toward the vaulted ceiling like the claws of some ancient beast. Yet, as Jon settles among its countless blades, he feels not triumph, but the weight of responsibility settling upon his young shoulders. The throne room fills with lords and ladies who have come to witness the restoration of House Targaryen. Some kneel from genuine loyalty, others from pragmatic acceptance of the new reality. Jon receives them all with equal courtesy, his purple eyes scanning faces both hostile and hopeful as each petitioner approaches. Bloodraven's cloak rests upon his shoulders, its black wool and scarlet threads marking him unmistakably as heir to 3 centuries of dragon kings. The simple crown of white gold that belonged to Prince Rhaegar encircles his brow, catching the light that streams through the throne room's stained glass windows. At the foot of the Iron Throne stands Eddard Stark, no longer a prisoner, but Jon's first appointment to the small council. The former hand wears new clothes befitting his station, but his grey eyes carry the same honor and dignity that shaped Jon's character through 14 years of patient guidance. "Bring forward Sir Jaime Lannister," Jon commands, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. The Kingslayer enters in chains, his golden hair dull and his green eyes wary. Behind him walks Queen Cersei, her defiance barely contained despite her obvious defeat. Joffrey follows last, the boy who called himself king, now reduced to a frightened child, facing judgment. "You stand accused of treason, regicide, and the unlawful seizure of the throne," Jon says, his voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "How do you answer these charges?" Jaime raises his head, with something of his old arrogance. "I answer that I served the realm as I saw fit, your grace. Robert Baratheon was a drunken fool, and his supposed son was no better. Yet you served them both when it suited your purposes. I did what I thought necessary to protect my family and the realm." Jaime's eyes meet Jon's, directly. "As you have done, I suspect." Jon considers this answer carefully. Around the throne room, lords and ladies wait to see what manner of king the young Targaryen will prove to be. His decision here will echo through the realm for years to come. "Sir Jaime," Jon says finally, "you killed my grandfather, the Mad King Aerys. For that act, you have been called Kingslayer and Oathbreaker. Yet, that same act saved thousands of lives when Aerys planned to burn King's Landing to ash." He pauses, letting his words settle over the assembled court. "I name you no hero, but neither do I name you villain. You are banished from the capital, stripped of your white cloak, but your life is spared. The crowd murmurs at this unexpected mercy. Jaime's eyes widen with surprise, perhaps the first genuine emotion he has shown since entering the throne room. "And what of the queen?" Jon asks, turning his attention to Cersei. The former queen lifts her chin defiantly. "I regret nothing. I protected my children as any mother would. Children who were not Robert's," Jon observes. Children whose very existence was built upon lies that nearly tore the realm apart. "They are still my children, despite everything." He understands the bonds between parent and child, the lengths to which love will drive even the most flawed souls. "You will be confined to Casterly Rock for the remainder of your days," he declares. "Your children will remain in the capital as my wards, to be raised with honor and given opportunities to serve the realm honestly." The mercy shocks the court. Many expected executions, the traditional response to such treachery. Instead, they witness a king who chooses justice, tempered with compassion. When the formal audience ends, Jon retreats to his private chambers, where the reunion he has long anticipated finally takes place. Sansa and Arya Stark burst through the doors, their faces bright with joy and confusion as they see their brother, their cousin, wearing a crown. "Jon!" Arya flings herself into his arms without ceremony, her fierce spirit unchanged by court protocols. "Is it true? Are you really a prince?" "A king now, little sister," Jon replies, holding her tightly, "but still your Jon, regardless of titles or crowns." Sansa approaches more carefully, her lady's training evident in every movement. "Aegon Targaryen," she says softly, testing the name. "It suits you better than I would have expected." Jon reaches for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm still the boy who helped you with your needlework and listened to your songs. Blood doesn't change the bonds we forged at Winterfell, but it changes everything else," Sansa observes, her blue eyes studying his face. "You'll marry for alliance now, won't you? Some great lady who can bring armies to your cause." "Perhaps," Jon admits. "Kings rarely marry for love, but I'll remember the lessons you both taught me about courage and kindness. They'll guide me better than any political alliance." Over the following days, Jon begins the delicate work of establishing his reign. The Night's Watch brothers who followed him south are disbanded from their vows and reformed as his personal guard, their black cloaks exchanged for the black and red of House Targaryen. Sam becomes his secretary and advisor, his gentle nature and sharp mind proving invaluable in the day-to-day business of ruling. Maester Aemon takes his place on the small council, his wisdom and experience lending legitimacy to the young king's decisions, though the old man grows frailer with each passing day. His presence reassures lords who remember the stability of Targaryen rule. "You've done well," Aemon tells Jon during one of their private evening conversations. "The realm accepts you because you've shown them a king who serves rather than commands." "I had good teachers," Jon replies, refilling Aemon's cup with watered wine. "A maester who taught me duty, a lord who taught me honor, friends who taught me loyalty. And now you must teach the realm what a true king looks like." Aemon's clouded eyes seem to focus on something beyond the present moment. "I have lived long enough to see House Targaryen fall and rise again. It is a good place to end one's story." 3 weeks later, Maester Aemon dies peacefully in his sleep, his weathered face serene as he passes into whatever lies beyond. Jon wears Bloodraven's cloak to the funeral, honoring the man who recognized his destiny and guided him toward accepting it. The sept of Baelor fills with mourners, lords and common folk alike, who remember the ancient maester's wisdom and kindness. Jon speaks the eulogy himself, his young voice carrying clearly through the sacred space. Aemon Targaryen chose duty over comfort, service over glory, the good of the realm over personal desire. Jon declares, he refused a crown to serve from shadows, and in doing so, he showed me what it truly means to be worthy of one. Let his example guide us all toward better choices. As spring begins to touch the capital, ravens carry word of the new king's reign to every corner of Westeros. The great lords bend the knee one by one, some eagerly, others with resignation, but all acknowledging the legitimacy of Aegon's claim. The realm finds peace under dragon rule once again. Jon's reforms, protecting bastards from persecution, establishing schools for low-born children, creating courts where justice depends on truth rather than gold, begin to heal wounds left by years of corrupt rule. In the throne room of the Red Keep, King Aegon VI Targaryen holds court with wisdom beyond his years. Ned Stark stands at his right hand, offering counsel born of honor and experience. Sam organizes correspondence with meticulous care, ensuring no petition goes unheard. The Night's Watch veterans maintain order with discipline learned at the edge of the world. On quiet evenings, Jon walks the Red Keep's gardens and thinks of the boy who arrived at Castle Black, seeking only belonging. That bastard search led him to a crown, but more importantly, it led him to understand that true nobility comes not from blood, but from choices. The ravens that once carried his secrets now spread word of his just decisions across the realm. Lords who expected another mad king instead find a young man who listens carefully, judges fairly, and rules with the knowledge that power exists to serve others. Winter may still be coming, but for now, the realm rests secure under the protection of its rightful king. The last dragon has learned to fly, and his fire burns bright with justice and mercy. From the Iron Seat where Aegon the Conqueror once held court, his descendant continues the long work of ruling wisely. The bastard of Winterfell has become the king the realm needed, and House Targaryen lives again in service to the people it was born to protect. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like,